Hello MotoGP fans, welcome back to ZNGP today. Marc Márquez, currently fourth in the MotoGP standings, has made it clear he won't be offering any advice to Jorge Martin as the latter continues his pursuit of the 2024 MotoGP title. With the championship battle heating up ahead of the Indonesian Grand Prix, Marquez had some candid remarks about his stance on helping a rival. Here's more on the story. Francesco Bagnaia faced a challenging weekend at the Emilia Romagna GP, culminating in his 7th DNF of the 2024 season. Despite this setback, the reigning double world champion remains committed to his racing approach. Let's dive into what Bagnaia had to say as he prepares for the Indonesian Grand Prix. The debate surrounding the dramatic last-lap clash between Emilia Bastianini and Jorge Martin during the Emilia Romagna GP reignited today at the Indonesian GP. Despite the steward's decision not to penalize Bastianini, questions about the transparency of the investigation remain. Here's more on what unfolded. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Heading into this weekend's Indonesian Grand Prix at Mandalika, Jorge Martin leads the MotoGP championship by 24 points after a second-place finish at the Emilia Romagna GP. Despite some setbacks in the Misano sprint, where Francesco Bagnaia had briefly closed the gap to just 4 points, a crash by Bagnaia allowed Martin to regain his advantage. The title race remains tight, with only 60 points separating the top 4 riders. Marc Márquez is currently fourth in the standings, but the 8-time world champion has ruled himself out as a title contender this season. When asked how he was dealing with the pressures of the season, Márquez made it clear that his focus is on enjoying the remainder of the year rather than chasing the title. "For me, I already achieved my targets for this season. So, keep enjoying it will be the key." Márquez's quote. Last season, Márquez had backed Martin as a potential champion, largely because the Pramac rider faced fewer expectations in his satellite team role. But when questioned this week about offering Martin advice, Márquez's stance was firm. "I'm not going to give him any advice. According to you, I'm still alive in the fight. I'm not going to give any advice to rivals who are on the track or to future rivals." The Gresini rider emphasized that while he doesn't consider himself a title contender this year, Martin is both a current and future competitor. "I'm not thinking about winning the title this year, but Martin is a current rival and will be one in the future. So why should I give advice to my rival? I'll give it to my brother and that's it." As the MotoGP paddock turns its attention to Mandalika, Marc Márquez is aiming for a top 5 finish at a track where he has yet to complete a race. In 2022, a heavy crash in warm-up forced him out of contention, while last year, he also failed to finish. It's true that last year, I've never finished a race here in Indonesia because in 2022 I had that massive crash in the warm-up here. Time to understand our level here and the target will be to be again in that top 4, top 5 positions. Márquez added that while Mandalika may not be one of his favorite circuits, he is optimistic about this weekend's race. "It's a track that I like. It's not one of my favorites, but it's a track that I like that has been in a normal level, not super good. I'm looking forward to understanding it with the Ducati," Márquez concluded. While Jorge Martin leads the charge for the MotoGP title, Marc Márquez has made it clear he won't be lending a helping hand to his rival. As the season enters its final stretch, the championship battle is heating up, with Mandalika set to be the next thrilling stop. Bagnaia had a strong start to the Emilia Romagna GP, qualifying on pole and winning the sprint. However, issues with his Michelin tires hampered his performance during the main race. After struggling for pace early on, he crashed on lap 21 while running third, allowing rival Jorge Martin to extend his championship lead. "I will approach it like always, pushing, trying to be competitive, trying to win races." Quote from Francesco Bagnaia. With the crash, Bagnaia now finds himself 24 points behind Martin in the championship standings, but believes he can still mount a challenge. Despite the recent difficulties, Bagnaia insists his racing strategy will not change. He plans to remain aggressive and focused on achieving the best possible results in the remaining races. I still need to approach this part of the season in an aggressive way, and after these 2 races I will maybe change my strategy. But at the moment I have to push a lot. Quote from Francesco Bagnaia. This determination to maintain his aggressive style indicates Bagnaia's confidence in his ability to recover lost ground in the championship. Following the race at Misano, Michelin is analyzing data from Bagnaia's tires to pinpoint the issues. Bagnaia has not yet received a clear explanation for the tire problems he experienced. About what happened with the pace, it's difficult to say something. The start of the race, it was very difficult to push. I was not having a great feeling with the rear tire, Bagnaia told by Crash. Bagnaia expressed his frustration at not being able to replicate the pace he showed during practice, emphasizing the need for collaboration with Michelin to resolve the ongoing tire issues. Addressing his crash, Bagnaia acknowledged that it was a mistake, but highlighted the difficulty of pushing hard while maintaining bike alignment. He noted that this season has already presented its fair share of challenges. It was my mistake, but as soon as you are not pushing that hard on the brakes and your bike is more aligned, it's easier to lose the front, Bagnaia concluded. He remains focused on improving for the upcoming race weekend in Indonesia, where he hopes to build on his previous performance. As Bagnaia gears up for the Indonesian Grand Prix, he's determined to stick to his racing philosophy of pushing hard and striving for victory. With the championship race heating up, all eyes will be on how he performs in the next round. Just 4 days after the heated final lap at Misano, where Enea Bastianini made contact with Jorge Martin at turn 4 to secure the victory, the controversy continues. While the stewards took no action against Bastianini, Martin and his Pramac team have not been satisfied with the lack of penalty. In Thursday's press conference at Mandalika, both riders were asked about the incident. Bastianini defended his move, saying it was a racing incident, a stance backed by the stewards. However, Martin disagreed with the decision, insisting that the lack of a penalty was unfair. One of the main criticisms after the Emilia Romagna GP was the perceived lack of investigation into the incident by the FIM stewards. However, former Grand Prix winner Simon Krafar, who is set to replace current steward Freddie Spencer in 2025, offered some clarity. The stewards did investigate it. They investigate everything. Just because you don't see under investigation on TV doesn't mean they aren't, Krafar told. Krafar explained that the stewards had access to nearly 160 cameras at Misano, including dedicated cameras for incidents like this, as well as the international feed and circuit CCTV. He emphasized that the stewards meticulously reviewed multiple angles before deciding there was no need for a penalty. Their decision was the opposite of about 50% of the people, but it was no penalty. Despite Krafar's explanation, the situation still raises important questions. If the stewards did indeed investigate the incident, why wasn't that made clear immediately? A simple broadcast message indicating no further action could have put an end to the controversy. Some media members have suggested that the stewards didn't feel the need for a full investigation, which is surprising given that the race win was at stake. The lack of transparency is now the central issue, with many questioning the rules of engagement used by the stewards. Martin, still frustrated by the decision, said he tried to speak with Freddie Spencer after the race but couldn't get a hold of him. I tried to see them later, they told me to talk to them tomorrow. I want to talk to them, but not during a weekend or before a session. Maybe we can find time to do it, Martin's told. Stewards' handling of this incident could have wider implications. Both Martin and his team have made it clear they now understand the acceptable limits as defined by the stewards. In future races, they plan to push those limits to the same extent, believing they won't be penalized if they follow Bastianini's example. The controversy centers around Bastianini running off track after the clash, which some believe should have resulted in a penalty. However, Bastianini defended his move by saying he looked over to check if Martin had crashed. In previous races, exceeding track limits on the last lap has often resulted in penalties. But this rule only applies to runoff areas painted green, which was not the case at Misano. While Crafar's insight has helped shed light on the situation, it's clear that more needs to be done to ensure transparency in stewarding decisions. Crafar himself, who is set to take over from Freddie Spencer in 2025, has shown he has the communication skills necessary to improve this aspect of MotoGP. At the very least, this incident has highlighted the need for clearer communication and more transparency from the stewards when making crucial decisions that could impact the championship standings. With both riders continuing to push for answers, the Misano incident remains a topic of intense debate. As MotoGP moves into the final rounds of the season, clarity on the rules of engagement will be essential to avoid further controversies. Thanks for watching ZNGP today, and this is your MotoGP news update. See you in the next video.